All right, we are rolling without Doc this week because unfortunately the good doctor is not feeling all that well. And this is I think only the second time that he's ever had to miss an episode because of illness. So we are going to carry on without him this week. He has given me his blessing because we don't know honestly if he's going to be feeling better by New Comic Book Day. So we want to make sure you guys are getting all the reviews that you are accustomed to because we don't have a Friar side chat set aside as well, and couldn't get another member of the DSG on the show on short notice. So I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. Normally we go, through publisher by publisher and talk about all the releases that are coming out this week, so that way you guys have a nice checklist going into the shop. Books from your pull list are expected to be there at least. That's still going to be there, but I'm actually going to go through all the books that I want to talk about this week off the rip, and then I'll give you that checklist towards the end of the show. Not going to be doing anything else, no trade, nothing in that regard. Just focusing on the books that are out this week, so that way you guys are getting that analysis that you have come accustomed to. Reminder for everybody who's new to the show. First of all, this is not the norm at all. This is very much a first, but we always have our Friar side chats available on our audio channels. Make sure you subscribe there. And if you find us over on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe as well. Tell a fellow comic book reader. And if you do tell them about this episode, and this is the first one, just remind them this is not the norm. Normally we have a little bit more witty repartee with Doc on the program. Now, obviously, a lot of books to get to this week. Again, I am doing 11 on my own. Usually Doc and I don't know how many people keep track at home, but usually we try and do about 6 that we do in-depth breakdowns on. Some I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than others, and I am going to bounce around a little bit. Some I want to prioritize over others, including the first one I want to discuss, which is Absolute Batman issue 15. This is written, of course, by Scott Snyder with art by Jock, which was a surprise to me. It was probably publicized elsewhere, but I don't know how it ended up slipping past me. There's so much going on with Absolute Batman. It's very hard to keep up. Speaking of which, before I even get into the book itself, for those of you who are on Twitter still, like Joe and I are, and a few other people in the comic book industry, obviously there's not a lot great going on Twitter right now. But one thing that's friggin' awesome that's related to Absolute Batman are the cards that Tim Daniel has been making. These like unofficial trading cards for Absolute Batman with some of the art from the series, some of the some fan art that's been done. This stuff looks great, and if DC, if anybody at DC saw that, I was like, I would talk to Tim right away because that is too damn good. He does a lot of really good stuff. Designing is obviously his forte, and I'm very impressed by what he's been able to do with those cards, because I think superhero cards are a tough one to always necessarily get right. But anyways, I want to talk about Absolute Batman because issue 15, you're getting ready to know the Joker. We've been waiting for this for a while now. This issue gives us Absolute Joker in great detail, and I this is a villain that is massively impressive, and I don't necessarily like saying that because he also is a total utter piece of shit. But like that's what's so great about him. He's going to be an absolute nightmare for Absolute Batman, and he already has been to an extent. But now it's going to be like the way he's going to challenge Batman is going to feel so different from the way mainline Batman and mainline Joker interact with one another. And I'm sure there's going to be a level in which it feels like roles reversed, but at the same time, we know it's not going to be exact role reversal. And then on top of all that too, like we talked about it at the end of the last arc, the Abomination arc. Absolute Batman issue 14 had a great ending. Like all around, it was a great issue, but the final page was an absolute jaw dropper. And then we get the final 2 pages of Absolute Batman issue 15 again, where this is a very Joker-centric issue. Those last 2 pages, I was just like, it's something that I think we're accustomed to with, obviously stuff that Scott does in general, but especially in this Absolute Batman series, where it's like doing this this issue, and then like all this awesome stuff happened, and then at the very end, it's like, oh, and here's another wrinkle at the very end, and it's really impressive, and it really speaks to the tinkering that Scott has been able to do with the artists that he's been working with, primarily Nick Dragata, on Absolute Batman. I just really have been impressed by those. It's the little things like that it's definitely important for the story and the character and stuff, but it's also like, yeah, everything was good without this. And then you just add that one little bit, and it's just like that's what makes it a great friggin' issue. So Absolute Batman issue 15, obviously been one of the best series going right now in all of comics. Everybody and their mother is talking about this thing. I mean, I went into my shop the other day and they were talking about it, and totally unprompted and everything because it is the book right now. Now we got a book from back in the day, back in the 90s that has returned to shelves this week. We finally got the reboot from Image and Top Cows, The Darkness, issue 1, of course, written by Mark Silvestri, pencils by Ed Bennis, and then a few different people in on inks. We got Sal Reglis, John Livesay, excuse me, and then Matt Banning. And if you read, so obviously, anytime we see these reboots, where there's reason to be concerned, is there, are we going to, is it going to be like regurgitation? Is it going to respect the characters? All these different things, because if something's getting rebooted, usually there was like, okay, there was something interesting, there's something well done before. There's an audience for that kind of already, but some things are going to be redone, some things are going to be fixed. I think if you read the OG Darkness run, this is going to feel familiar in all the right ways. It's also extremely accessible for new readers. I honestly went back and checked out the original first issue of the Darkness. I don't have the floppy of that. I do have it in collected form, and because I was like, I read this and I was like, this feels so much like the original Darkness. But I'm a little worried that it's like, because I knew Mark Silvestri had talked about, elsewhere, that this is going to feel like the character. So this is going to respect the character in all the right ways, but then also make some changes. And I read this and I was like, okay, there are some apparent changes. I haven't read The Darkness in a bit. I've talked about it on the show in detail, and I went back and read it, and it's very different in the right ways, and it's also very similar in the right ways. So like the in all around, it was really impressive. And I think for me, the thing that I'm maybe not most excited about, it's hard to say exactly what, but one thing that's really stood out, like if you've been craving the combination of a dark protagonist in 90s art style, The Darkness is going to have you covered. I'm very happy coming off of this first issue. Moving over to Marvel, as we roll through all 11 books that I wanted to break down in detail this week. Ultimate Wolverine, issue 12. This is written, of course, by Chris Condon with art by Alessandro Cappuccio. And last issue of Ultimate Wolverine was a lot. The ending was devastating. I think that's actually in the synopsis for this issue, talking about issue 11. It was just insane the way that thing ended, and it was moving along at this interesting pace. It was a good issue, but this was an instance where the ending was absolutely everything. And when that happens, I expect, and I'm sure I'm not alone, okay, we're going to get a big response to this. Like how is that going to manifest? I'm not sure, but you expect, all right, this was a good issue. Now it is a really devastating ending. We're going to need something big in the other direction for the following issue. We get that here. An absolutely great issue for fans of Alessandro Cappuccio's art. And to me, there was like this little surprise too that Chris Condon had in store in this issue that I did not expect at all. I don't think anybody could necessarily anticipate that. And it just really speaks to, I don't want to say what specific element of the writing that he's, brought to this series, but there is a specific element that when you get there in the issue, you'll be able to piece it all together on your own. But come ready for the response to the devastation from Ultimate Wolverine issue 11 and in issue 12. Switching gears over to Oni, we got Crownsville issue 2. This is written by friend of the show, Rodney Barnes, with art by Elia Benetti. And the first issue, they're setting the stage, getting to know the characters, getting to know what Crownsville is, what it means to the community that it's located within, which is Baltimore. In this month's issue, in issue 2, we get right down to it. We get we already have an understanding of what's going on with some of these characters, and we left off in a position where things were a little bit sketchy, and then things move in that direction in a big way. And what's interesting about this is a horror series, and obviously we love what Rodney's done with his work with horror in particular. The moments that are haunting here are particularly powerful because they reveal a lot about some of our lead characters, but then also about Crownsville itself. And there's weight to this horror. It's not just like, holy crap, this is a terrifying monster or what have you. Like there's some terrifying things that have happened. If you read the first issue, you have an idea of what we're talking about, but it takes it to another level where now it's going to have some implications for the plot as well. The emotions are right there on the surface for the story, and this this issue made things a lot heavier, added a lot of weight to Crownsville. So this is a 5-issue miniseries over at Oni. Coming off the second issue, very, very strong position for this series. Moving back to Marvel, there were 4 Marvel books that I wanted to break down this week, and then bouncing around pretty much. I think there's only one other place where I wanted to double up. Maybe no, that's not true. Anyways, moving on. Unbreakable X-Men issue 3. This is of course a series written by Gail Simone with art by Mario Santoro with a few other artists. He's the lead artist on this issue, and this is the final issue of this miniseries. We're dealing with a lot of the characters from her Uncanny X-Men run, which I've really enjoyed in a big way, in a big part because of what she's done with 2 characters in particular. This miniseries was focused heavily on one of those characters, and that is Gambit, who I think most people know is one of my absolute favorite characters in all of comics. As a kid, he was my absolute favorite character. I think looking at this series and then also looking at Unbreakable X-Men, where that is this series, what Unbreakable X-Men was not just about Gambit and Rogue, but it was heavily about them. But Gail Simone's done a great job with all the New Mutants in this series. I've been very impressed by that. Been shocked by that, quite honestly, because I just think it's very hard always to bring in new characters, and I'm shocked by my level of investment. But we know Gail Simone is a great writer, obviously. So like I know that going in, I have my expectations. She continues to meet them. Whoever she went to and was like, "Hey, I want to write Rogue and Gambit. Like these are the 2 characters that I need to write these 2 characters." Like that person needs like promotion, praise, what have you, because I know it's easy to say, "Hey, yeah, like Gail, go, you want to do this thing, go ahead and do it." But man, she is no one's done Gambit better than Gail Simone. I really mean that. I'm blown away every single time. It's like this is so good. She's so spot on with Remy, and she's done a great job with Rogue too. I very much enjoyed that. But I am definitely I've said it many times. Like Gambit's somebody who I can get a little bit more particular about with how he's written. And I'm not saying I don't get that with Anna Marie, but it's just with Gambit, that's my dude through and through. And I can get a little uptight, I guess, or something about it. But Gail Simone has just more than anybody blown me away with how she's written that character. Moving over to Dynamite, the one Dynamite book I want to talk about should be no surprise here, but that's the Terminator Metal issue 3. Declan Shalvey and Rory McConville have been writing this anthology series. Art on this one is by Colin Craker. And I mean, first 2 issues, it was just like Joe and I absolutely loved it. I was blown away. Like we know what these writers and the artists are capable of, but still, like I'm not this big like Terminator fan, and I not talking about the comic book series, just in general. Like I like it, but I'm not like, oh, I have to read Terminator stuff. And I am blown away by what these guys have been able to write and the artists what they've brought to life in this series, because it's set in this world and how the Terminators impact everybody and everything, and they've created so many good one-off stories that I'm just like I need more of this, and I there's a part of me that's like, I wouldn't mind more of this part of the world than how they're dealing with the T-800s. But I'm also like, no, this is good on its own. And they're doing so well with, like, the first 2 were so good that I'm just like, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't change anything. We get to this issue, and while the others have been more like, holy shit twists, this has like an interesting twist on it, but it's more of like a, what if a T-800 was, did this? And in this case, this is, putting one of those those robots into 1889. Fun change of pace from what we've been getting in this series. I like that, and honestly, it was really good. I would probably say it's of the like I love those first 2 issues so much. I'd probably put it at number 3 on my list in terms of which story I like the most. But at the same time, it's a really nice change of pace, really well executed, and it's still awesome. Like I feel like right now this is only solicited for 4 issues. When we've checked League of Comic Geeks, that's all we've seen. If Declan and Roy want to do more, I really hope the sales are reflecting how strong this series has been. But if they want to do more and the sales have been there, like I would just tell, like if I'm Dynamite, I would just tell these 2, like keep doing it, mix in the artists that you want that are right for those issues, and just keep rolling with it, because I think this stuff's outstanding. And we need, like, it's always good to have some good anthologies, but this has been blowing me away. Bringing things back to Marvel, want to talk about a series that I it's no surprise when you got Jimmy Palmiotti and Dan Panosian working together, and like, yeah, obviously you're gonna get some good shit. And they're doing Marvel Knights Punisher. Issue 3 is out this week. I think there was a gap in between issues 1 and 2, like a little bit larger than normal, because I feel like this issue, after reading issue 2, was like this came right up on me real fast, which I'm not upset about at all. But first 2 issues, really good. Really enjoyed this series. We get to this issue, Jimmy and Dan freaking kick things up a notch. I cannot believe how much they did. By the end of this issue, I was just like, this is issue 4 is going to be unhinged. I don't know how long this series is. I feel like it's a mini, but I'm not, it's got to be. But I don't remember exactly how many issues. But I would imagine issue 4 is going to be absolutely unhinged. And this has already been a very action packed series, very violent series. And this one gets extremely tense, extremely uncomfortable. And I'm just thinking, like, by the end of this, I'm thinking, like, we've seen Frank Castle mad before. Obviously, we've seen him focused before. Obviously, I I think this is like the like we've never what we're going to see in these ensuing issues. I don't know if it'll ever be at a higher level, like on both of those aspects, because just everything that transpires in this issue, it is it gets really heavy. Like, there's a weight in this issue that we don't see in the previous 2 issues, and I thought it was really well done, and it's just enhanced Marvel Knights the Punisher to another level that's going to be really exciting to see unfold. In the whether it's the next 2 issues, next 3, I'm not sure, but either way, this has been a really fun series, and now it's gotten a little bit more uncomfortable for readers, which is good. Moving over, speaking of getting uncomfortable, It Killed Everyone But Me, issue 4. This is from Mad Cave Studios, of course, by a friend of the show, Ryan Parrott, who we talked to about a little bit, and art by Letizia Candassini. And this is the penultimate issue of this story. And it's funny, I read all of these 11 issues, among other things that I've read, between this episode of TLDR and the previous one. And certain things jump out. Like, when you're reading, obviously, like, you artistically, or from a narration or dialogue standpoint, things stand out, but different emotions stand out. And that's kind of what we try and talk about as much as we can on the show, and encapsulate as best as we can. And it's not often that I read something and think, like, there's one word that describes this, and that's it, and that's what and it's just it encapsulates it perfectly. But for It Killed Everyone But Me, like, this series is ruthless. Period. That is the only word that you need to know going into this. That goes for the writing and for the art. And obviously, like, I have this feeling coming off of issue 4 more so than I have in any of the other issues, because of obviously the events that transpire here. This is the most ruthless of all the issues. And if you've read the first 3, it's like, this is a pretty, like some of the characters that Ryan and Letitia came up with, like, they're pretty freaky looking, and that's not even what I'm going for in this. Like, there's just punches are not held back by any of these characters. I guess we'll just put it that way, without delving into any potential spoiler coverage. Moving over to Marvel, and these next couple here, before I round things up, are a little bit quicker. From Marvel, Nova Centurion issue 2, Jed McKay, with art by Alvaro Lopez and Mateo Delafonte. One thing I'm really surprised about with this series is, but with McKay, I probably shouldn't be. The supporting characters that are around Nova, like, we get some in the first issue, but the second issue a little, much more so. And I'm just like, huh, like, I kind of like these characters just as much as I like Nova. That shouldn't surprise me, because I haven't spoken. I've talked about Moon Knight, McKay's Moon Knight work on the show, not in a full-fledged mainline episode, but I've talked about it in general on the show. And that is a strong suit of his in that series, where he's just able to incorporate other characters really well. And this is, Nova Centurion, seeing that early and often, so expecting that going forward. I Hate Fairyland, issue 46, of course, Image Comics. This is a book I have talked about in detail on the show. Scotty Young and Derek Loffman on this issue, and this is another, like, self-contained story that could impact the large, the world at large, excuse me, at some point down the line. I'm very curious where, like, Scotty is planning on taking some of these. Like, these are all fun stories that can kind of be their own thing, and it's like 1, 2 issues, and then cool, whatever. But is he building to something larger? in the wake of Happy Endgame. I think we're like it's been like issues since the end of Happy Endgame. So I would think, I don't know. Maybe there's going to be another larger arc going forward. Maybe you just want to keep doing these one-offs and then tie things together later, what have you. I'm not sure, but either way, I always have fun every time this comes out. I'm always I think this is one of those series where, like, by the time it comes out and I see like the review copies, I'm like, thinking before that, like, is I Hate Fairyland coming out? Like, that's got to be soon. Because the art style, obviously, a lot of fun, and it's just a little bit different than everything else we see. In general comics, there's only a few artists who have like a similar style to Loftman and Scotty Young, especially. From Mad Cave, we've got a number one here, Our Soot Stained Heart. This is by Joni Haag and Stipman Morion. If you're looking for either a steampunk story, which I think is like right on the cover, it mentions that it's a steampunk story, or a new world that feels massive, because that, like, they do like specifically, like, I like, obviously Hogg's doing it in his writing in the capacity, but with what Stepan Morian is doing with the art in this first issue, it just does so much to build out this world and kind of give you like an understanding of like what's at stake, what's going on, what's the state of things for people. So if you're looking for something like that in your reading, Our Soot Stained Heart issue 1 is a book you want to check out this week. It is a double-sized issue as well, which I'm sure is reflected in the price. But either way, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck on that first go around. And then to round things out was actually the last book that I'd read before recording. That's Assorted Crisis Events, issue 7, written by Denise Camp with art by Eric Zawadsky. And of course, Assorted Crisis Events, heavy, always heavy, every issue, and it's been such an impressive series. It's funny, I say it's heavy. If I was on with Joe and he asked me to pin down exactly what the meaning was behind this issue, I don't think I could do exactly what it is. I had thoughts dancing around as I was reading it, but figure out that exact thing, or maybe like exact two things, I'm not certain. But I could definitely take a couple stabs at it. Either way, it's despite the fact that I don't exactly know what it is, this was still like one of the more interesting concepts, one of my favorite issues of this series, and I've broken this down in detail. This has been a series that I've been really enjoying, and I think everybody should be reading it. Not just everybody in comics, everybody, period. Just because there's a lot of stuff about the state of the world in various levels. What's really interesting about this issue, not just the concept, but upon reflection, is this is probably my favorite main character that we've gotten. It's somebody who you can't help but feel bad for, and it's just like we've gotten a lot of narration where it's a character talking to the reader or what have you, and that's what's going on here. But it's just, I don't know. There's something about the way that Camp wrote it this go around where it just hit me in a way that was a little bit more impactful from a character standpoint. Everything else for me has been like, I love the concept, I love the story. Yes, the characters are interesting, but I love what's being talked about and how it's being talked about here. That's generally how I felt about it. But with this one, it was like, no, this is a like really, I really like this character. And I don't expect we're gonna get more, but obviously, again, there's always this one character, if you've been reading short crisis events, that is a through line. I cannot wait to see what goes on with that character if something happens in greater detail at some point. All right, so that's everything for me from an analytical standpoint. Again, wanted to break down 11 books. Normally Joe and I do 6, 8, somewhere in that ballpark. Because we got to leave room for our witty repartee. But with Joe out, I figured I'd go in detail a little bit more on some of these other books by myself. As for the checklist for everybody, going to just roll through everything, even if I've already talked about it. So from Marvel, we got Ultimate Spider-Man issue 23, Ultimate Wolverine issue 12, The Amazing Spider-Man issue 17, Ultimate Black Panther issue 23, Spider-Man and Wolverine issue 8, The Infernal Hulk issue 2, The New Avengers issue 7, Unbreakable X-Men issue 7, Marvel Knights the Punisher issue 3, Sinister 6 issue 3, All New Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider issue 5, Iron Fist issue 3, Nova Centurion issue 2, Long Shots issue 3, Spirits of Violence issue 3, which I might check that one out at some point. Han Solo Hunt for the Falcon issue 4, and The End 2099 issue 1. Moving over to DC, we got Absolute Batman issue 15, Action Comics 1093, Batman and Robin issue 28, Aquaman issue 12, Supergirl issue 8, Green Lantern Corps issue 11, Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice issue 6, Court Children of the Round Table issue 4, DCKO Wonder Woman versus Lobo issue 1. From Boom, we got Minor Arcana issue 12. From Dark Horse, we got Star Wars Tales from the Nightlands issue 3, Star Wars Hyperspace Stories Codebreakers issue 4, Captain Harvey and the Graveyard of Time issue 2, Magic the Gathering Untold Stories Elspeth issue 2, Synthetics volume 1 issue 2, and Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man issue 1. From Mad Cave, we got You Killed Everyone But Me issue 4, Look Into My Eyes issue 5, Circus Maximus issue 2, Our Soot-Stained Heart issue 1, and Defenders of the Earth Dark Destiny issue 1. From Oni, we got Crownsville issue 2 and Shiver Suspense. What the heck? Suspense Stories? Suspense Stories. Wow. Okay. Suspense. Jeez. Shiver Suspense Stories issue 1, but it's, I don't know if it's a typo or what, but it's like suspense and stories is one word. Anyways, obviously I have not read that one yet. IDW TMNT issue 13, TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures issue 31, Star Trek Lower Decks issue 14, Tales of TMNT issue 2, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, The Seeds of Salvation issue 4, and Street Sharks issue 3. From Titan, don't tell Joe I said it the proper way, Blade Runner, Black Lotus, Las Vegas issue 3, Star Wars Insider 235, Conan the Barbarian issue 25, and I mean, now I'm telling you there's no way. Joe actually did put the checklist together, which I appreciate very much. He did not need to do that. From Ignition, we got The Beauty issue 2. From Dynamite, we got The Terminator Metal issue 3, Vampirella Armageddon issue 6, and Vampirella issue 7. And then from Image and a little bit from Skybound, and of course Top Cow, we got Transformers issue 27, Geiger issue 19, Assorted Crisis Events issue 7, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero issue 323, I Hate Fairyland issue 46, Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger Spawn issue 11, Witchblade issue 17, Blood and Thunder issue 8, Free Planet issue 7, Death to Pachuco issue 3, and then The Darkness issue 1. That is going to do it for me this week. I want to thank Joe Mulvey in the chat for cheering me on. Very much appreciated. Oh, Joe is in the chat. Of course, he chimed in right when I said Titan correctly. All right, that is going to do it for this week. We should have a mainline episode next week. If not, maybe we'll have some little extra in store. Not sure. It's all going to depend on how the good doctor is feeling. But until next week, keep reading.